Bring in Joel Rubin, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and President of the Washington Strategy Group. Joel, thank you for being with us. I just want your reaction to this news that it looks probable that Sinwar is dead.
Well, Jose, this was Israel's Osama bin Laden. One can't help but have an emotional reaction to this. This is a man who masterminded the bloody assault on October 7th. This is a man whose vision for the Middle East was war and fire and destruction of Israel and pulling in Lebanon and pulling in Iran and trying to create chaos and frankly, hell for the region. And this is a man who kicked off a war that has cost thousands of Palestinian lives and the destruction of much of Gaza. So if this is verified, and it appears that it is, this is a new day. It's a good new day. It opens up a lot of new questions, a lot of questions about chain of command, about how will Hamas react? Will it surrender? Will it say, we have no leader? Remember, I'll mention this, it's very important. Sinwar was now dual-hatted. He is not just the military leader of Hamas in Gaza, he's also the political leader. He got that position after the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. So his loss, this is a decapitation of Hamas at the highest level. And so we are going to have a new day. But this is a significant and important milestone.
Joel, you know, there is no doubt that leaders matter, right? But with the decapitation of Hamas leadership, there is also the death of countless thousands of people in Gaza, in, for example, Rafah, where so many of these battles have been carried out and where the, hostages are no doubt some, maybe all, being held in that area. But when you decapitate the leadership and at the same time there is so much destruction, isn't it natural for those that come up afterwards to be more radicalized, even more intent on causing death, grief, and destruction? Well,
Jose, nothing is automatic in these kinds of scenarios. It does not mean, there is no guarantee that because Sinwar is gone, that there is an automatic next person in line who will have the ability to communicate and lead. Sinwar was a unique figure inside of Gaza. He held control over a guerrilla type of set of activities by Hamas for the past year. And so who's going to fill those shoes when they don't have the ability to communicate, when they're spread out, is not a very straight line. And I think to this point, this is a window. This is an opportunity. What this does mean is that on the ground, the Israeli Defense Forces are going to have to look around and try to find hostages, quite frankly, and see if there are other ways to get into the thought process of Hamas militants who may now be freer to abandon their fighting and may be willing to turn in hostages to not get killed for this diabolical war that is ending nowhere good for them. But I do want to mention, to your point, the destruction in Gaza, the deaths of the Palestinians in Gaza, it's a horrifying number. It's a horrifying humanitarian catastrophe. And this is something that Sinwar did not care about. Let's just be very clear. This is a situation that he kicked off a year ago. And this is a situation he never agreed to have a ceasefire for, to stop and to try to change what's happening on the ground. Well, maybe now we have that chance. And it is not clear at all who's going to take the reins on the ground in Gaza at this moment.
And Joel, just finally, the world has been so deliberate on insisting that Israel pull back from Rafah, that they don't go in to Rafah, that they don't do what they have been doing for a year now since that massacre. I'm just wondering, what's the message here? And I think, what does this tell you about the Israelis?
Well, quite bluntly, Jose, it tells you the Israelis knew that Rafah was the center point of activity. Hostages were found there, and identifying and finding Sinwar there and other leading militants there, the Israelis have found. But they also were supported by the United States and by Israeli allies in this fight. What the pullback was on Rafah was to make sure that it was done in a targeted manner where soldiers would go in and identify targets and would not drop 2,000-pound bombs. And that was the right call. And in fact, it may very well have led to the operation that we just saw unfold and that we're talking about right now, which is dropping those 2,000-pound bombs may very well have incinerated and eviscerated the possibility of knowing if it was Sinwar. And so let's be blunt, the Israeli Defense Forces have conducted this operation. They know Rafah is where the central node is. And I think they've been doing it with American support, Biden-Harris strong support, but doing it in a way that does not eliminate and eviscerate the entirety of Rafah and takes care as much as possible of the humanitarian concerns.
Joe Rubin, always a pleasure. I thank you very much. I want to bring in John Spencer.